Hey, so this is going to be the Vengeance Demon Hunter stats video for 7.2. So going right into it, our stat prios are going to be for raid survival. It's going to be verse, greater than mastery, then haste, and then crit. And this is going to be regardless of whether you have the tier or not. The tier doesn't really affect anything in Nighthold right now. In future patches, such as Tomb of Sargeras, it may affect it. However, right now, that's what we're going with. That's what's best right now. For Mythic Plus Survival, it's going to be Mastery, then Verse, then Haste, and then Crit. And that's because Mastery works really well with Demon Spikes, and we have much higher uptime in Mythic Plus comparatively to Raids. Effective uptime, that is. And then Verse is good for the downtime in between, and then Haste after that. As far as DPS goes, all the stats are very close together, but in general, we stick to Crit, then Verse, Mastery, and finally Haste. So now for the rules for gearing. So I'm going to start off by saying we do not have any stat weights, so we only have priorities. And this is because of stat weights primarily come from sims, and sims don't work very well for tanks, which that's a whole nother video, and I won't get into that here. But we don't have any stat weights, and this is for pawn or Ask Mr. Robot or any of that. So, and minimums and maximums, we don't have any. So a lot of people come in asking, how much haste should I have minimum? How much should I go for 15%, 20%, 25%? Some people think that the magic number is 20% for some reason, and that's not true. There is no minimum. As far as maximums go, the maximum is unachievable, so don't even worry about that. As far as eye level goes, this rule is going to be for everything except for trinkets, rings, and neck pieces. So if it's 15 or higher eye level, then you're definitely going to equip it. At 10 or lower eye level, so 5 or 10, at 5, you're going to look at the stats. At 10, you're still going to take the secondaries into consideration. Oftentimes, you're going to just take that 10 eye level, but take a look at the pieces first, look at the secondaries, weigh them. So as far as necks and rings go, you're going to go for the secondary stats on them primarily, and the only time you would take eye level is if the eye level gap is huge, just because the fact of you're going to get so much more stats out of it. So in general, look at the stats. If it's like a 40 or 50 gap, then you're probably going to equip that 40 or 50 higher eye level one, because you're just going to get so many more stats out of it, including the stamina. And as far as gems and enchants go, you gem and enchant for whatever the first stat of the prio that you're going for is. So for raiding, you're going to go for verse. If you want more mythic plus, you want more mastery. If you want more DPS, you can really go for anything. Crit would be the ideal. So that's what you're going to do for gems and enchants. So I'm going to talk a little bit briefly about each stat and why we go for them. So verse we go for the magic mitigation is one of the primary reasons. It works very well at smoothing our damage taken via the physical and the magical, so it affects everything. It also increases our healing output and our damage output, so it's an all-around stat that works on everything. So that's why it's so good for damage and for survivability, and why most people will be gemming for it and enchanting. And the reason why we want mastery is that it increases the damage reduction of demon spikes. So it only works on physical, but it increases our damage reduction, and it gives us some attack power, so it'll increase our damage and our healing output a little bit. Haste. So haste reduces the cooldown on demon spikes, immolation aura, fell blade, and throw glaive, and it also reduces our GCD, our global cooldown. So this isn't as strong right now because we don't need as much Demon Spike's uptime and Night Hold with being so much more magic damage, and it doesn't increase our healing that much or our pain generation that much. So it's a little bit lower tier. It's still good to have, but it's not as good as people think it is, and it's not as good as it used to be. And finally, crit. So crit makes you do more damage, makes you do more healing, and gives you a little bit of parry. So it's not good defensively because the healing is random, parry is RNG, and parry only works on parryable attacks. So generally this is only auto attacks from the boss. So crit will be almost useless on a fight like Croesus or Star Augur, where the boss either barely auto attacks or doesn't auto attack at all, and you can't parry, so you're not gonna get any damage reduction from it. And on things like Sims, crit looks a little bit better because parry is good because it technically reduces that hit, so when you parry an attack, you don't take damage from it. So if the boss is going to melee you for 2 million and then you parry it, you technically reduce your damage taken by 2 million in that time. So it looks good on paper, but in actual practice, you don't want it. Most tanks don't try to go for RNG. Most tanks don't want to have RNG. The smoother the better, and parry doesn't do it as well. So crit is not very good defensively, but it is good offensively for the amount of damage that it can output. Alright, that's going to wrap it up here. For any more video guides or for the written guides, check out Wowhead or Icy Veins, and they will also be posted up in the Discords. I will be making video guides for a few other things, and they will be directly inputted into the written guides themselves, so you can have both of them. So check those out, and I'll see you guys next time.